This episode of the podcast is sponsored by my book, We Stand on the Shoulders of Titans, Amnesia.
Hello and welcome to the Grammar Decline, where I'm joined by Dominic and Mike and our special guest Trin, where today we're discussing the elephant in the room. So Trin, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Hi, I go by the handle Trinary Zero. I'm from the United States. I work in the cybersecurity industry, and I basically hang out and talk about politics and games and stuff sometimes.
Always good subjects, always good subjects. So you mentioned politics and games there. What's your kind of background in that?
Well, I'm not exactly learned in politics. I basically just consume a lot of political content online. I watch a lot of videos on politics pretty much every day. I was watching some early before coming here. But
Hmm.
besides that, it's mostly just trying to keep abreast of current events and keep an eye on the pulse of things and making sure I know what's going on so I'm ready for whatever's coming up.
Yeah, and that be the elephant in the room, I suppose, is current events that's kind of going on around the world at the moment. What do you guys think?
Well, I think the biggest problem that you see, not just in America, but in every single country in the West, and I would say in Japan and South Korea as well, is that people have stopped attempting to interact with masculinity due to the bad reputation it got, especially after World War II, right? Because the Nazis were seen as a very masculine energy type of balance. So what that has evolved to is, if you look at American politics from 2020 to 2024, the Biden administration was very much going into the direction of identity politics, well, so quote unquote equality, despite the fact if you think about the equality they're trying to achieve, it's inequality. And the best example for that is if you look at how they treat men. And in 2016, there was a documentary called The Red Pill, where a feminist went into the men's right movement. And this is all in America, where she found out that there are genuine problems within what's happening with men. And that's already almost 10 years ago now. And as a result, instead of like people trying to interact with that, the left trying to interact with that, feminine woman trying to interact with that, they excommunicated her. They cut her off from social and they cut her off from anything, just so that they could make sure that whatever they're saying in their bubble stays consistent. And that is from like my perspective, like from a Dutch perspective, that's how I look at America, like my country as well, obviously. But if you look at the United States and you look at what happened after Trump won, it's a Democrats hiring someone, an obese, feministic woman that has absolutely no clue how to talk to regular men, give her money, and then somehow she's the one that's going to have to try and get men back to Democrats.
Right, okay, so I mean
I
that's the
wonder how she
demo.
managed to convince him to do it. So I'm the one for the job.
I mean that's Democrats, but what's about the Republicans? I mean I see them as pretty masculine because of the way that Trump comes across. You know, it's all a kind of power play. He obviously wants to change things for the better of his country. I mean, how do you view him, Trin, in your country? What goes down there?
Well, I feel that the Republicans have definitely moved into the space to provide some very solid male role models effectively. While some people wouldn't necessarily aspire to Trump, JD Vance I feel is a very solid and clean cut example of masculinity that a lot of people can aspire to. A lot of there's a number of Republican oriented influencers or conservative influencers, if nothing else, that also portray themselves as being solidly masculine.
I mean, was there not a lot of protests against JD Vance, but and what he was doing? Like, I think Vancouver, was it? They had kind of mass protests and stuff like that against him. Am I wrong there?
Uh, I mean, JD Vance gets protested by people almost as much as Trump for some inexplicable reason. I'm not
Right.
sure
Okay.
why. I mean, they like bouncing around balls or showing pictures of the memes of JD Vance, it's clear he just laughs at them. He loves
I
it.
want one of those. I want one of those balls.
Yeah. I guess it came from like when he was sitting down with Zelensky and stuff like that. How he came across as a bit of a bully. in some circumstances. So I mean, that's I guess what maybe people were unhappy about and why he was kind of getting protested against. And I mean, from my point of view, like just looking at that whole thing with Zelensky and all that, they did come across as a bit of a bullying team, so to speak. You know, they wouldn't let him speak. They were kind of just tried to put
Well,
him aside and his opinions.
I feel that Zelensky keeps asking for a great deal, and then when he gets what he wants, he asks for more. You know, you give a mouse a cookie, then he'll ask for milk. And yes, I understand they're in a war situation,
Mhm.
but the point of JD Vance is that the least you can do is be grateful about what you're being given and not be just feeling entitled. Because through the Biden presidency, he just was given shovel loads of whatever he wanted, pretty much.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
I guess.
so,
I mean that was obviously one of Trump's points was, oh, you're sitting here, you're not being grateful for what we're giving you. You know, we're helping out your country, X, Y, and Z. But I mean, in that point of view, he just wouldn't give him the floor at all. He just wouldn't let him speak. He wouldn't give him a chance, you know, and he kind of just kicked him out at the end of the day, you know, because, you know, he didn't see him as being grateful. I mean, so what does being grateful look like, you know?
Saying
well,
thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, you can say thank you, but sometimes the
say
words don't mean much.
say thank you, be humble, don't
Yeah,
do things in the proper place and time. Because a lot of what triggered that was Zelensky was basically making an appeal for more stuff in the middle of a discussion of having already signed a deal, and in the front of world media, he was trying to put Trump on the spot.
right, okay. So do you think if it was like off camera and maybe not in public, then it could have been better discussed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If it wasn't happening out in public, it would have been much easier for Zelensky to discuss things, because then they could talk frankly. Then it wouldn't look like he was playing games. It would have been much more reasonable, I believe.
So I mean, it seems like, as I said, from an outsider point of view, it maybe seems like Trump has America's best intentions at heart, and you know he seems to be really taking the stage in terms of the world right now. He's kind of settled things across in the east for to a degree, you know, for Gaza and stuff like that. So I mean, he is kind of on a high at the moment. But is there anything that he's maybe doing that you don't agree with at all?
Well, I mean, everybody does things you don't agree with.
Yeah,
I didn't
like for
like.
America, I suppose, like as directly for your country. Is there anything that he's doing for your country that you don't agree with?
Um, it's the things I don't like have been fairly minor so far. I don't like the. I'm still leery. I'm a little leery on the tariffs. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I gotta wait for them to play out to see how things go. I am not sure about some of the comments he's made about various things. Obviously, the treatment of the Epstein files has been a giant albatross over his neck,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
Been one
rightly
for me.
so. Um, there's there's absolutely things to criticize him about. I just don't exactly have the list of Trump mistakes on hand here.
yeah,
I mean, most people say it's about the decorum, but I mean, who really cares about the decorum at the end of the day? If you get the job done, the dude could talk like the Incredible Hulk, like, or like take candle kind of speak,
We're
and I wouldn't care.
we're sitting here
yeah.
complaining about decorum when in our past we've had Andrew Jackson and Teddy Roosevelt.
But
I don't
then,
know
don't
what
you
they've done
also create
specifically.
like another issue? Like one of the problems that we see in America is something that we've also seen with like the Weimar Republic. Like, it's not to say Trump is a fascist. I'm not really entertaining that idea either, because it's just silly. It's more the tools that are being used. Like something I describe as like the Frankenstein monster of ethics. What every single successful civilization has done was be some sort of Frankenstein monster of a creation of a mumbled things, like a package deal. Whereas what we see with Trump is very similar to the latest stages of the Roman Empire, where, well, you don't really have an emperor, but you have a president who is, well, he definitely has his own agenda, he definitely has his own ideas, but in the end, who is really running America? If you think about, for example, in the British Empire, it's like when the Rothschilds and like the Rockefellers started becoming really popular and big, well, especially with their money. One of the key things that they said is the royal family might own the British Empire, but I own the covers, so the chests, the money of the British Empire. And with that, I'm the one really in charge. How do you view that?
I feel that unlike the British Empire, where rather in that at that state time of history, the U.S. is considerably more resilient to such manipulations than the British were. Like you're
Right.
not going to be able to have a Soros just go in and tank your money like he did.
I mean, for me, the royal family's pretty much going right now, and the current state of affairs, they're going by public opinion. I mean, just look what happened at this time of recording this week. What they did with Prince Andrew, and they kind of made him strip all his kind of titles, just because of the outcry, obviously, and rightfully so again, about the whole sex scandal
Because
things.
he was made the what was it, the patsy for the Epstein files.
Yeah.
So it's like he's the easiest target to get. So they're all like, yeah, we'll throw him under the bus, and everyone else can be left alone. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, when it comes to that, because the vast majority of people in the world do not want bad stuff to happen to kids.
Yeah,
So
of course.
well, if it's like, oh, he's potentially diddled kids, it's like, don't care if he's a royal. He's definitely gonna have to get his comeuppance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the irony about it is, it was due to what happened to Queen Elizabeth that kind of set the stone to the whole kind of age restriction thing. For our age limits here, we're obviously for 16, but it was before. It wasn't Queen Elizabeth. It was one before her. Um, Back in the Victorian times, anyway, and she was
Queen
abused.
Victoria.
Yeah, Queen Victoria. Sorry. So yeah, she was abused. I believe as a family member, and that's what kind of she grew up with that trauma, and then she kind of put in the rule or put in the law in place that there must be a certain age before you can have consensual sex, essentially.
I did
Um,
not know about that.
yeah, it was brought in from that side of things. But then, of course, you see different countries have different age restrictions on things, and it's how people feel at the end of the day. It's absolutely right that it should be law that people, can't have sex until they're of a mature age. That being 17 here in the UK, but other cultures might view it differently. And it's one of those things. But yeah, that's definitely where it came from in our side of the country. So yeah, it's one bag of worms that you kind of don't want to go into, I suppose. But I mean, how did that reflect in Roman times, actually, Dominic?
Well, the biggest thing that you need to understand is that it's not necessarily the Romans. It's more if you look at Ibn Khaldun's, like again, the Al-Muqaddimah, when he describes the fall of what happened in modern day Spain of the Islamite, the Caliphate. The problem is that you have a generation that does all the hard work, so to say. And then within a few generations, by the fourth generation comes around, all they do is enjoy. And that can take a lot of shapes, but lust is definitely one of them. So if you look at our modern society, we live in the most luxurious time to be alive in all of recorded history, hands down, right? And what we've done with that is just there's game addiction, there's porn addiction, there is so many addictions. Like it's like our entire society right now is just addiction, right? Like we've become a slave to our own enjoyment. That is also exactly how Ibn Khaldun describes it.
Yeah,
And
I guess that's why sites like OnlyFans exist, essentially.
that's definitely
Because
part of it, right? Like it's the parasocial part of it as well, because like
Some
the
people are also missing connection as well, which is I think
yeah,
where
yeah,
OnlyFans comes into it, because
that's
even
why I
if it's
said
a fake
parasocial.
one, they want. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even if it's a fake one, they want some kind of interaction with the
yeah.
person.
And even that now, it's even AI is getting brought into that, where there's relationships sparked up with AI now because people are lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You
out of
know?
control in Japan as well. Like AI, like there's I forgot what the name of the program is, but there's actually marriage certificates possible now for AI weddings. So
Mhm.
there's
Oh,
actual men
jeez.
in Japan, and like back to the elephant in the room, right? Like the men issue. Like not to deny that women don't have issues either, but like as men, we have a responsibility to at least look at other men because we understand other men. If whenever I talk to a woman, I'm trying to understand, but more often than not, there's always a barrier. And the same goes, like, it's a two-way street. I also often speak with women that don't really understand that sometimes men are just very simple with their logic. So the problem with men, if you look at modern day Japan, so current state of Japan, you are dealing with a very specific issue, which is that the male loneliness epidemic is at an all-time high there. You have otaku culture, that's one thing, but that's more the people who have kind of like given up and are just retreating themselves into like the anime culture or the idol culture, and they're creating social parasocial relationship like with like VTubers and stuff like that, right? But on the other side, like if you think about quote unquote regular men, the option they're choosing is called Johatsu. And Johatsu quite literally means, if you look at the kanji, the evaporated people. So what these people do is they hire a service and then they remove their identity and just completely vanish. So there's a company that just takes them somewhere, takes them somewhere else completely different within the country, take away their identity, take away all of their history, everything, create a completely new identity, and then they just live their life. There's also some cases of that in the United States as well, and I believe in my country too. I don't really know about other countries, but this phenomena where men are basically just going, "I'm opting out," not in the sense of like the ultimate option, but more in the sense of the societal option, where there's just no value, and you see that in universities too as well. As I see a lot of men just dropping out, giving up, because they are like the universities right now are completely unfair. There's an enormous amount of discrimination and sexism against men in higher education in the name of quote unquote progression, right? Like minorities get advantages, females get advantages, and there's scholarships for these people. And because that whole ideology works that way, where men don't really fit in, they are just like, okay, if I can't fit in anyway, then why even bother? Like I've already lost at the finish line, at the start line. At that stage, it's like, what's the point, right? So that is
Yeah.
kind of like if you talk about the Roman Empire, like they were indulging themselves on like circus. This is why for the past few episodes we spoke about gaming, music, like I call it like the junk food, right? Junk food novels, junk food music, easy to digest, easy to enjoy. Um, that is kind of like the brain opting out, the brain being in such a stage of luxury where you're like struggling. I don't like trying, gives me pain. It's like a brain reaction, right? That's the way our brains work. They just decide, you know what, why even bother? Just stay out, don't cause problems, and it's the quiet quitting, right? It's a quite common phenomena as well. That is kind of like how the Roman Empire, like if we really go into like the details, operated with the regular man, because the problem with like academics, higher education, philosophers stems mostly from the issue for the fact that they don't understand just how simple regular people are. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like what we need to like embrace again, like how simple regular people are. Because when we can understand that, it means that we stop creating a society entirely for the exception, and we start creating a society that is both meritocratic but also enables the exception, and the people that are not interested in that can just live their normal life.
Yeah.
And that is like, men, like I said, are quite simple. I have, well, we're four men here, right?
Yeah.
I've known
Oh
you
yeah.
guys for a bit now, and you guys like a simple life, and
Yeah.
that's totally fine. Like that's like a society should be constructed for you and your simple life to be enabled. Like
Yeah.
you pay your taxes, and you can have a car if you have like the financial capabilities of it, and the infrastructure should be good, the food supply should be good, and if
Yeah.
all of that is handled, you could have a good life.
But yeah, but I guess what's missing from that is you still need to work hard to get that simple life. So it's not simple to actually get to that simple life. I guess the whole ethos, even in American culture, is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Trin, but you have to work hard to get the things you want and then to have a simple life. So that comes with hard work.
And that brings you kind of like to the American dream, right? If you think
Yeah.
about how the American people lived their life 50 years ago or 60 years ago and how they live it now, like obviously, like it was around the 70s, right? When was it the Reagan administration where they changed quite a lot of things when it came to the financial system. And it was from that moment onwards, like the inflation, everything got completely out of control. The exception decided we rule the place now and we want all the benefits. And then the regular people get heavily affected.
Yeah. Well, the American dream was a catchphrase at one point, and that's what you found with, people want to go over to America. They were like, oh, going over to live the American dream kind of thing, because it was seen as you could be successful if you worked hard there, and, you could live a comfortable life. But I mean, it seems from the outside point of view, there's a lot of overindulgence in the States, and that's prevalent everywhere at the moment. There is overindulgence, as we spoke about. But how is it looking for you guys inside the States at the moment? What is it looking like for you, Trin?
Well, I mean, America is basically the beacon of consumerism and overindulgence itself. Absolutely, we have a massive issue with obesity and other diseases related to overindulgence. We use
Hmm.
people use tons of drugs, people get addicted to all kinds of crazy things, and then people deform themselves in all kinds of strange ways.
Yeah, and I think as
So
well, like you see it in businesses, corporate especially, like your healthcare system right now in my opinion, it's based on greed because the rich just want to get sheerly rich, by selling healthcare products, drugs and stuff like that. They'll get people fat and then they'll sell them a drug to um, make them not be fat anymore. So it's based pretty much on corporate greed and even like painkillers and things like that. You guys pay over the odds in your medical stuff, even to get like an ambulance to hospital. I've heard people say, "Oh, I would rather take an Uber or I would rather take a taxi because it's not going to cost me as much as an ambulance to get there." So, in my opinion, it's all based on greed, and again, it's that overindulgence of money. How do you feel about that?
well, the subject of the American healthcare system is a very, very large and complicated one.
Yeah,
It's very easy to just boil everything down to just greed, but it's way more complicated than that. Everything has a cost, everything has a price.
of
And
course.
America has, and despite the complaints about the price of the American healthcare system, I feel it is still one of the best healthcare systems in the world.
Well, I mean, if you look at like our healthcare system, yeah, we do have our problems. The NHS does have its problems, but it's a free healthcare system, and people do take advantage of that.
It's not free. It's prepaid. I mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
do
yeah.
have
We,
our
we pay
national
pay our
trust.
taxes, of
Yeah,
course. We pay our taxes to go towards that. But I think that's the point: is we pay our taxes. We can be secure in the fact that we know if we call an ambulance to go to hospital, we're not going to have a $1,500 bill to fucking pay at the end of it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
but with that, we've also got like somewhere between a 10-minute and 24-hour wait sometimes for
yeah,
these things to turn up.
yeah,
So it's like while it might be quote unquote free,
yeah.
um, the time frame for it is ridiculous. I mean, you have people get. I heard like report of someone getting operated on in the middle of a corridor just because there was no room.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it's just that
horrible. You know,
overfull.
I've had my own kind of visits to hospital, and I've had to be in a room waiting about 16 hours, 17 hours to actually just be seen, which is it's shocking, but it is what it is. But also that's why we do have an option for private healthcare here, where you can pay that bit extra, and you will get taken immediately to be seen. So you will get priority over others, which
Wouldn't you
Well,
say
that's
that's
already a
is on a
fulfilling to a
debate.
problem.
degree, though?
Like, there's
Yeah,
already a problem what you're saying there, Dave. Like, in the middle, you said there it is what it is. Why do you just accept that?
well, I accept it because if you pay for something, then rightfully so, should you not get priority over somebody else who doesn't pay?
But
No,
don't
I
we? But
mean before
we already
that.
paid.
Like,
You
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 said it
you
is
no
what it
you
is
act
when it came to you waiting 16 hours.
yeah
Like,
Right.
you
Because
accept the status quo of how it is.
I'm not paying for that healthcare. Yeah, I'm there of
You are.
something that I felt that. Well, okay, yeah, okay, I'm paying through my taxes, but I also accept that the doctors are there and they've got a job to do. They've got a lot of people to see. So for that, my case wasn't an emergency. If I was coming in an emergency and I couldn't breathe or something, then I would be expecting to get seen straight away. But I was there for a pretty
16 hours
much
though.
routine. Yeah, because I had something stuck in my throat. It wasn't causing me breathing issues, but it was, it was to the degree of where I thought, something's going to have to be done about this before something happens.
But yeah,
Um,
16 hours of sitting there
6
waiting.
hours.
That's you
Yeah.
can't really say that's good.
Yeah. Well, see, I put say 16 hours. Okay, maybe exaggeration a little bit. I was probably there for 8 hours. I'd been seen, and then I had to go up for further examination, and the whole process took about 16 hours. By the time it concluded that day, so yeah, it was 16 hours as a whole, but not like actually waiting to be seen, I suppose. So I'll need to correct myself there in that context. But yeah, it is a long time, but I accepted that because I know that at the end of it, I was still being seen. I was still getting done what needed to be done, and it wasn't an emergency. Whereas if it was an emergency and I needed surgery or something like that, then yeah, I would expect to be taken almost immediately.
but like the way I look at the American healthcare system is more a survival of the fittest. You're responsible for yourself. So if you do need healthcare, then you got to pay up. It's just the prices are a bit out of control. But then
Yeah.
when I look at the healthcare in the United Kingdom, I see more a foolish system, like a system that's gone way too far. If you think
Mm,
about the health itself, right? As a country, not responsible for making sure that people are healthy in the first place, so that you shouldn't be needing so many people to come to the hospital all the time.
yeah.
Like, if you think about mental health, for example, right? This is a huge deal. Like, if you look at some videos that we see from America's side when it comes to the colored hair, nose ring, all of those type of things.
Hmm.
Mental health care, from my point of view, from how I've experienced it myself, more often than not, is an enabler, not something that actually solves problem. Like, obviously, psychology is one of the newest additions to the medical field, but if you ever actually deal with like psychologists and psychiatrics, more often than not, they're just enabling your behavior. Like, they're giving you advice on things that you should probably fix or like things that you should probably change, but they're not gonna actually tell you like you're being ridiculous or you're doing destructive behavior or things like that, right? If you look at, for
Yeah.
example, the drug epidemic, a
Yeah.
lot of people with drug addiction, same kind of thing. Like therapy, they are told don't really do this, and they get like these groups in, and they're told your feelings matter, all those things, instead
Yeah.
of just telling the person in their face, stop being ridiculous.
Okay. So I
Like,
mean, in that vein, then are you saying that people's feelings aren't valid if they feel they need help to get out of that rut that they're in?
to a degree, but let's say it takes 15 years and you still haven't improved. At that stage, you're just a burden. Like, you're not
Mm,
trying to improve at all. Like, it doesn't take, like, for example, right? My health history is quite extensive. If I were
mm,
to open, because in my country, I can literally go to my hospital's website and I can log in and then have a full document of tons of surgeries, tons of like things that have been done to me, light therapy, like all kinds of things. Like, it's an enormous list that I have, right?
mm, mm.
In one side, my disease is chronic, so I don't really have a choice. But I could
Yep.
have just faulted, throw down the table and be like, I have mental problems and I'm not going to change them, but I want people to care. At that stage, you're just talking to a therapist saying, I just need someone to talk to. That's
Mm,
not something I would send my tax money to. Like if you
Right.
need to talk to someone and it's going to cost a professional with high education and you're burdening that person with this, and then not only are you burdening him, it's likely you're doing destructive behavior outside of that as well. Let's say
Yeah.
alcoholism or drugs. Now you're going to become a burden to the surgical department and to the other doctors, and now you're overburdening the entire system because you're not actually solving anything. You're just creating more destructive behavior. It started with mental health problems, let's say from childhood, that went into, let's say, alcoholism or sex or drugs. That then devolves into another issue. Now you're just doing decades of problems, and then at the time by you're 60, you suddenly wake up and like, hey, I should have probably changed some things a few decades ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I get where you're coming from there, but I mean, I still believe that mental health is a real thing, and I
Oh, I know,
mean
yeah. I'm
that
not denying
this
that.
this at time of recording again this week there was, well, it was actually about 3 weeks ago, I believe, it went viral about a woman who faked her own pregnancy, to her mum and to her family, and that went viral, and it caused an uproar. Um, but
As it should.
if we look underlying at the line underlying circumstances, why did she do that? Why did she feel that need to seek attention? Is it because of a mental health problem, or is it because she just wanted attention?
Isn't
You know?
it probably dopamine addiction? Like, that's another side of the story, right? Like, if you look at like a lot of people, especially people with Marxist ideas nowadays, like when you look at within like the leftist movement, there's a lot of communistic ideas coming forward, right? And first of all, that should be illegal. Second
Mm,
of all, when you look into their behavior, they're chronically online. They're constantly on their phone, absorbing TikTok, absorbing like all these type of dopamine fixes. Let's say I'm a therapist and I'm like, okay, the country for whatever reason hasn't banned this. We have a ton of research document clearly showing how damaging this is for over 25 years now.
mm.
But we're still not going to take away your phone, or we're going to tell you to install it, and we're not going to make sure that you uninstall it. Like all of those type of things are not being done. Are you then actually in therapy, or are you just being enabled?
Yeah, yeah, I get where you're coming from. Because she had also faked cancer as well beforehand, I believe, or I've been led to believe, of the person who I'm speaking about here. Which, anybody who wants to look can find it online right now. If they type in "women who fake pregnancy," they pretty much get to the story there. But it's one of those ones that is it a dopamine hit, and I guess from a bigger picture, does that then mean that everybody who wants this attention in society just going to TikTok to get a dopamine hit are going to put these stupid videos up, and fake things because they want a dopamine hit? Is that then leading to a bigger problem?
Yeah, like we have a dopamine addiction, not just in my country or your country, in America as well. Like America is a good example. And like I don't fully agree with the healthcare system. It has its pros and it definitely has its cons. But if you look at like the bigger picture, the issue just becomes like we've become a product, right? At the end stage of capitalism, if you look at Japan, that's like the end stage. It's just like you are the product, and if you're not interested in being the product, you're on your own, right? And if you think about like TikTok, like I said, plenty of research showing these type of attention spans damages your brain. Like I'm not just saying it's bad for your mental health; it actually damages your brain.
Hmm.
That's how severe the consequences are.
Yeah, well,
And
there has been studies now that they've found that people's attention levels have actually gone right down. Where people are struggling to concentrate for long periods of time now.
yeah,
And they're finding this in universities as well now, that people are struggling to actually concentrate for long periods of time.
yeah, like in that sense, like if you think about what the Trump administration is doing with how much money they're investing into AI, they're trying to brute solve the problem, right? They're trying to be
Yeah.
like, let's just have AI take over. Let's just make sure all the machines are AI. You can't have problems if everything is machines, right? Kind of like the cyberpunk delusion. Like if you think about Cyberpunk 2077, like it's basically a warning on what California would become by 2077, right? And at the current stage, we're kind of on track. Maybe not in the sense of implementing everything in your whole body, but we're definitely making progress when it comes to this type of mindset. Where I've interacted with quite a lot of people that, like especially from Japan, that just are looking at like if virtual reality could become real life, then I would want that. It's like, yeah, that's basically what the Matrix is warning about. And people
Yeah.
are genuinely just saying like, yeah, that's something I'm down for, and that's the problem. Like if you look at the overall picture of like every single country right now, like not just in the West, right, but every country. Like if you look at the Middle East too, the Middle East also has that problems. Like there are there's a lot of pressure from the Saudi Arabian royalty to stretch the meaning of certain hadiths within the Quran. Basically, meaning they're trying to get away with things, and imams are getting, well, not mass imprisoned, but there's already 17 imams that heavily told the royalty, no, we're not going to do this. And what the royalty then does is just throw them in prison. Ibn Khaldun is from them, right? Like he's a Muslim, Arabian. He wrote an entire book warning all of these things, showing the patterns, and still they're trying to indulge because right now the Middle East is extremely rich, right?
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
is these type of
Are they rich from
consensus,
oil, but or rich from anything else?
rich from oil mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like oil is their main industry. Like obviously, if you look at Dubai, tourism is also like a big part, but like everything's being funded mostly by oil, right?
Yeah.
And also gas, like in Qatar, you have a lot of liquid gas, like those type of things. Like it makes a lot of money.
So let's open up the floor then to Mike and Trin. What do you guys think about it?
Scrolling back to the mental health issue, like mental health is an important thing. We all definitely need help. It sometimes, and the biggest problem is that, like a lot of institutions, psychology has been infiltrated by leftist ideology that doesn't that tries to use soft touch and indoctrination styles in order to get what they want, instead of trying to challenge the person who is getting the therapy. Because a lot of people who are seeking therapy, they just want an excuse to say they have a therapist and they're seeing therapy without actually changing what they're doing wrong.
Yeah, so it comes down to accountability. They're not taking accountability for their own actions or the way that they're feeling,
Right.
which I can get. Yeah,
So it's a double-sided problem because a lot of therapists, I mean, they're running independent practices, so they need to have customers. But if all their customers just want affirmations instead of actually fixing their problems, what are they going to do?
yeah. But on the same side as token, do you not feel that some people who try to discuss their problems are also shunned to a degree? Maybe not by professionals, but if they seek from people around them, like their relationships and their friendships, uh, are they shunned in a way?
Men
Because
tend
like
to
for
get that a bit, yeah.
yeah, I mean, if we try to speak about things, and maybe not so much now, but if we do try to speak about things, men, especially, then we kind of get told, oh, stiff upper lip, just get on with it. You need to just go about your business, and what will happen. You know, and that's not good in itself. Sometimes I heard the phrase once by somebody, that was, okay, if you tell me something, I'm going to come and sit in the mud with you. And sometimes that's all it takes is for somebody actually just to be there, to not try and give you advice, but to listen to what you're saying, to then maybe you can come to your own conclusions and you can start then taking accountability. But as you said, maybe Trin, people are the soft touch. They'll just start kind of throwing things at you like drugs and stuff like that just to try and get you better, rather than actually seeing what the problem is, and the root of that problem.
Well, yeah, but that's because fixing a problem like this is actually extremely hard.
Yeah, of
No,
course.
because number one, the person first has to want to be fixed.
Yeah, yeah,
Genuinely. And
yeah,
second of all, then you have to laboriously go through and unravel every little thing that contributed to that, and
yeah,
then try to figure out a way to remedy that. And
yeah,
and then, like, I'm somebody who's had people confess problems to them a number of times. I know what it's like, and it's like I'm no therapist. So there's a limited number of things I can do with it. I'm not trained to be able to work with these kinds of things.
yeah,
But what I can offer support, I can offer advice, and more often than not, they just want somebody to vent to, and I'm perfectly happy to be that too.
yeah.
But
But
like there's a multifaceted reason why people don't talk to each other and expose themselves to each other, because it makes you vulnerable. And
Yeah.
and this world is not kind to the vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, it's a multifaceted thing. There's no going to be one thing that's going to lead to a problem for somebody. It's going to be a multitude of things. But like for the things of like gambling addiction and stuff like that, the things where it does cause dopamine hits, these things, again, they spawn, for me, in my opinion, they spawn from a much deeper issue. They spawn from maybe the way that you were brought up in childhood, childhood traumas to a degree, I suppose, things that didn't add up in life. And maybe it's not just childhood, but your brain doesn't develop fully until you're 25 years old. So anything that could come up that is traumatic at that stage, and even probably after that stage, could cause your behavior to change in a certain way that then causes a problem for other people. But sometimes it can't be pinpointed to one, absolutely one thing, you know.
Yeah, there's it's not always just one thing. There could be any number of factors that contribute to this, and that's what a therapist is supposed to do, is try to work and find out what the causes are.
Yeah.
But this isn't a simple solution, and a lot of our problems with addiction stem from the fact that we're not taught to be self-disciplined. We're
Yeah.
not taught to control ourselves.
But I also think it comes down to your genes to a degree as well, like your genetics, because you can be you can be
Predisposed.
yeah, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Predisposed to a certain characteristics, and they found that with studies of Siamese twins and things like that, where they're more predisposed to certain behaviours, or certain environments. So it's nature and nurture, both go hand in hand, really. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure I agree with that. Like, I don't agree that our genetics are our destiny, as in that
They're
manner.
not a
I don't.
destiny. No,
But
they're not a destiny, but they
there
do. I think they predetermine certain
there
aspects of our characteristics.
there is something as a there is definitely a thing, such a thing as a predisposition towards certain behaviors or certain things in your genetic makeup. But the person that has to act on them, the person that has to deal with that, is you. The fact that you have a genetic predisposition towards doing a thing does not give you the right to say, I have this genetic predisposition, there's nothing I can do, I'm going to
Absolutely
inflict
not.
my problem on
Yeah,
society as a whole.
exactly. You still have to take accountability for your behavior. Absolutely. So like, if you look at like autism or ADHD and maybe the problems that creates for some people, then it's down to that person to realize that that's a problem and then change their behavior for the better, because it benefits other people. It doesn't just benefit them. If they change their behavior, it is going to benefit them as well, because then they're not going to get problems in later life. So
Well, it
yeah,
can't. Well, I mean, your genetics can make problem, like, again, like you said, autism. So what you do then is just you try and work around it,
yeah,
as opposed to
exactly.
as opposed to just sitting there going, I've got autism, I can't do it. Because I mean, I've got autism,
Yeah,
but I try and work around it, so I don't sit there feeling sorry for myself. It's like
yeah,
I act, and even though it gets really difficult sometimes, because I have a predisposition to not do certain things. 'Cause like if you're autistic, you get a very very narrow band of interests. Well, keeping fit and doing exercise, that kind of thing, does not fit into my narrow band of interests. So I've got to try and muscle through that and get uh, get myself out there, get myself fit. Otherwise, I'm just going to become another drain on society.
mhm.
Got news for you, Mike. It's not just autism that makes people not want to exercise.
No, I'm just saying, it's like, if I'm not doing something that goes within my usual band of interest, I struggle to stay interested and doing it.
Yeah.
So I think it might make it a little bit harder for me than the average person, is what I'm
So
saying.
Well,
yeah,
then what you have to do is you have to sit down and create yourself a structure. You have to set up alarms. You have to set up maybe get a Fitbit or something, and find ways to remind yourself, okay, it's time to exercise. I'm going to do this thing for this long, and I'm going to do that thing for that long, and I'm going to get this routine done. And then once I'm done, then I'm good for now. And then just build it into your lifestyle, and over time, it will become
Absolutely.
part of what you do.
Yeah,
Which
they
is
say it
what I'm
takes like
already doing.
they say it
Yeah,
takes 21 days to build a habit, so you just do it constantly for those 21 days, and then after those 21 days, naturally it should be like you'll feel, if you've not done that thing, then you've not succeeded that day, or even just like people say, setting small goals, even if it's something as simple as washing the dishes a day. Just set those goals so you've got something to achieve daily, so it makes you feel better about yourself that you've actually
Well,
achieved
I'm
something
already
through that
feeling
day.
better. I'm already feeling better with it because I can run a little bit further than I used to now. So I'm actually feeling.
Yeah,
So I don't get so worn out as I
yeah,
did. So it's gradually getting there. It's like it's it's the little it's the little gains like that when you go like, hang on, I've just run for 20 minutes and I don't feel like I'm dying now.
yeah. And
I still feel quite worn down, but I don't feel like I'm on my deathbed. So
I
it's like, you know
think
what? It's little things like that where you go like, you know what, this is worth it.
I think that the,
yeah.
the thing of it is as well, but see if we do that, you're going to get a natural dopamine hit, which then should actually eliminate the need to seek it from other sources. It would be great if it was just that simple. Everybody go out and exercise, and they don't need to go online and fake pregnancy and stuff like that. But my point that I'm getting to is, if mental health, if you focus on your own mental health and focus on getting satisfaction out of the small things, then it should alleviate some of those problems that you're seeking from an outsourced material. But if we look at from the other dynamic where I said earlier about seeking power and stuff like that, that can come down to more psychopathy side of things, where you tend to find that CEOs who are in power have a degree of psychopathy because they need to be that, because they go out, they hurt people, not intentionally, but that's sometimes in the way in business things need to happen to get business done. You need to hurt other people. So if we look at that from the oil aspect that we were speaking about earlier on, do you think that's something that we could explore?
Can we
Not
fix?
sure you were getting about that.
Yeah,
Say
I'm
that
not
again.
sure what you were asking here.
So how, like, in terms of the psychopathy, and in terms of power and the whole green energy thing, um, could we look at that from that aspect?
From a
Well,
psychopathic aspect?
okay, so the matter of the power grid of the world, like the balance of oil production has been a long and complicated problem, just like many of these things. Like, there's always complaints about the oil production in the Middle East and how they're setting prices with OPEC and stuff like that. And then there's other oil producers like Venezuela, and then Russia, and Ro- I believe Romania, and I believe Poland just struck it big with oil recently as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I mean, the agenda to like obviously keep oil um as a primary source of energy, and maybe for not to go green. It's about. Do you think it's about people wanting money? As I
uh,
guess where I'm structuring the question, and does that spawn from psychopathy? As
well,
is
I
like
There's
is
mean,
what I'm trying to get to.
there's money in green energy as well because there's a lot of people are paying for like carbon tax credits, that kind of thing. So there's there's money on both sides of it. It just depends on who you agree with more, who would be the psychopath, really.
well,
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot. I can't deny that there's definitely probably a portion of the motivation to keep oil going as the primary energy source, as just invested interests and people attempting to hold on to their power in both metaphorical and physical sense.
mm,
But the fact of the matter is, green energy isn't where it needs to be to replace oil.
Yeah.
It just plain
Yeah.
isn't. Germany tried to do it, and you can see what happened to their power grid. They ended up having to basically start buying power from places that basically are ending up making more pollution in the indirectly than they did by switching to green.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, France went nuclear, and they're doing great. So yeah, but yeah, the green energy basically is a combination of money to as their own money interests. A lot of them are being funded, pretty much almost entirely funded through government subsidies, which is basically just a money transfer from, effectively an involuntary money transfer from the people to these subsidies, whether they would want them or not, and various action groups who are basically trying to disguise their ideologies behind the veneer of save the world from climate change.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I like to call greens watermelons, because they're green on the outside and red on the
Do you think
inside.
there's a degree of narcissism about it?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of these people think their farts don't
Yeah.
stink.
You,
Yeah.
you, you
there's
do
a
you do need to be a narcissist to be an absolute zealot, because you can't believe for a second that you're wrong, and that takes a certain degree of narcissistic personality for that.
yeah, like there's a word that is because I'm writing my third book right now. There's a word that I'm using from my own country. It's called schijnheiligheid. I'm gonna save you trying to pronounce that, but it basically means the holier than thou attitude. So this is a common, well, not really a common word, but it's a word that Dutch people definitely know. And this whole holier than thou attitude, like, yeah, it's the narcissism, but it's also the I am better than you and also holier than you. Like, I am the right guy, I am the one in the right. Like, 'cause this is the main idea with postmodernism, right? It is the mentality that they feel that they are right on the right side, in on the right side of history, all of these type of details, right?
I
That
hate
is
that
the
phrase.
yeah, but that is like the schijnheiligheid. It is the holier than thou attitude that has really infiltrated. Well, I don't really say infiltrated because I think that if you look at history, like for example, when the ancient Greeks were doing democracy, it's the same kind of idea. Like you have careerism, right? Like the politicians are more obsessed with holding their career than they are actually interested in doing their job. It's the quite interesting thing because we just spoke about mental health, right? Like, for example, you are a surgeon, you're operating on a patient with heart disease, the patient ends up dying. This becomes a permanent mark on your career. And these things definitely happen, and they will investigate you, make sure that you did everything you possibly could. And this is the envision of a meritocracy. So they will check if you did everything you possibly could, check if you followed all the ethical standards, they will interview your staff, and then based on all of these results, they will kind of come to a conclusion. More often than not, it's like, okay, it was an accident. Like, in the end, you are a human being, right? Now let's take that exact same example and put it on the government side. They're not responsible for one person. If I look at the European Union, we have a total amount of people of 400 plus million people, right? So that means not only are they affecting one person, they're affecting 400 million people. And the consequences? Nil. There's absolutely no consequences. And this is the danger of like the idealism of the holier than thou attitude. Because not only do they feel like they're better than all of us, they have this elitist attitude. Like the whole reason I wrote my first book with such an extreme academic jargon, because I know they're going to circle jerk over it. Like, I know how these people think. They're obsessed with, oh, I know what this means. Oh, I know what these things implicate. Like, it's this narcissistic behavior of the elite. They really want to show that, oh, I know English. Oh, congratulations. I don't really care. But in order to speak to them, I do need to, well, not really lower myself because I have to obviously increase the English, but I have to put myself at their level in order to even remotely engage with their ideas. And that is kind of like the issue. These people on top, more often than not, hold this schijnheiligheid where they're just forcing their whole idealism on us. Like, I don't know about America, but in my country, there's a politician called Frans Timmerman, And he's telling all of us, back in 1970, when I lived in a Rijtjeshuis, which is like a Dutch cultural housing, like it's how we used to build our houses. It's a very cultural thing. Looks quite nice as well. So it's visually attractive as well. So he came with that statement in the 2023 elections. And it didn't take long because the Dutch are brutally honest, but everyone started making fun of him because this man lives in a villa in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's like, yeah, you can speak all you want from that villa in the forest, really nice outlook, nobody to bother you. There's no consequences of your actions. Like you've definitely experienced it 50 years ago, but it's no longer 50 years ago. It's that pride I talk about, right? Like it's always the first stage of collapse. It's pride, where people are too prideful and too ignorant to accept that they don't know everything. And that is kind of like the envision I have, like at least my country. I don't know about you, Trin. How do you look with this on America?
So, I mean, we're talking about the holier than thou types in the
Yeah,
America.
but also just the general consensus of like these people who have all this fancy talk and speak all this big game, but in the end they're just there for the career. And if you look at like the past few election cycles, they've promised a whole lot in order to get the position, but the moment they got their position, they're not actually engaging and trying to do something.
Well, I mean, America's as jaundiced on politicians as anyone else. No, most people don't really take politicians seriously and expect them to actually do what they say they're going to do. That's one of the reasons why Trump was such a earth-shattering situation. Is like he's one of the first politicians in recent memory who's actually tried to actually do what he said he was going to do.
But is that for the right reasons? Is it for the holier than thou attitudes that maybe, for me, I see him as a bit of a narcissist, a bit of a I'll do it.
Oh, there's nothing holier than thou about Trump. He's an egotist. He's a narcissist, but he's doing what people want. That's what matters. But in a lot of other cases, there's a lot of other politicians who absolutely are just operating out of narcissism and holier than thou stuff, like Gavin Newsom. He has absolutely been talking out of one side of his mouth and out the other all the time. And him and a lot of politicians out of California have been lying and manipulating things quite a bit for their constituents. And I'm not sure why people continue to tolerate them when it's so obvious. But I guess the environment of the people who are there, they just don't. They feel that they're getting what they want enough that they don't care that this is all happening.
Mike, how does
I'm guessing it's just down to incentives, really. It's like they don't care that the politician is lying as long as they get what they want, and the politician is also getting what they want. So that's basically what it boils down
Mike,
to.
how does this look in the UK?
More of the same, really. You've got plenty of politicians who they never fulfill their mandate promises. It's usually because of strongholds. People will just vote for a single party in an area, and it becomes tradition to do so. And with that in mind, the actual party that rules there doesn't have any incentive to actually do the things that they say they're going to do. Which is why I remember when Boris won in 2019, and it broke the red wall. You had a bunch of Labour MPs saying that the voters let us down, and my first response to that was, no, you've got that backwards. It's like you've let the people down, which is why they haven't voted for you this time.
Yeah. If you feel let down, why would you go and vote for somebody at the end of the day? That's true.
It was actually so bad that, like I say, the red wall broke. All of these Labour stronghold counties just decided to turn blue and go to the Tories instead. Turned out not to do much of anything in the end, but it was just the shock of it, because a lot of those counties had not voted anything other than Labour in like 60, 70 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to shift the subject a little bit and actually ask Trin about something as well, which was the events on September the 10th with Charlie Kirk. Has there been any ripple effects from that, and has that influenced anything in the way that things look and the way that things look in the US?
Oh God, that all over the place. Shockwaves went out and through the entire political sphere of the United States. People will. I'm. It may be presumptuous of me, but I'm pretty sure people will, in time, look on the assassination of Charlie Kirk in much the same way that they did on the assassination of Martin Luther
Right.
King.
Okay. In what vein?
Right, looking actually, yeah.
Um, between the exposure of so much of the radical left for the kind of people they are, and the sudden existential need to to cleanse the institutions of people who quite literally celebrate and wish for your death if you're
Yeah.
conservative.
On the opposite side of that, obviously, that this person who is accused of going and committing the murder of Charlie Kirk, he's going to get held to trial. I'm imagining that it will be pretty publicised, just due to the sheer gravity of it.
Probably not. I reckon it'll probably go to federal trial, which don't get televised,
Right.
which is a damn shame because they should.
One
Yeah.
interesting thing about the situation, though, it's like not something I talk about in my book, is that my country has already been in America's situation 20 years ago. Something that I might have mentioned to you guys already, but it was the assassination of Pin Fortuyn.
Right.
So for the audience, like Pin Fortuyn was a politician. Wouldn't really call him conservative. He was definitely in the conservative line, but it was more in the idea of the way immigration was going, the way refugees were going. We're creating a two-side state with two ideologies. On one side, you had the natives, and the other side, you had Muslims. And the culture of the Dutch were so different compared to how the Muslims were raising each other because they were entering their own Muslim schools, they were getting their mosques. And his argument was basically, we shouldn't allow them to do this because, well, if we allow them to do this, they're going to have a separate system within our own country. And that's currently what's happening, right? But as a result, because of him saying that, it was someone on the extreme left. So this is just a white guy, Dutch guy. He went to prison for he was sentenced for 25 years. He served 18. Who assassinated him? Very similar to the Charlie Kirk situation. He was captured by Marxist ideologies, and the moment a minority, quote unquote, was attacked, that's when he went like, okay, so this politician should no longer be part of this world, right? And he executed him. And the
Don't
problem,
you have?
what?
Come. I was
The
going to say, don't
problem,
you have that with the AFD as well in Germany? Like, haven't a lot of their members just suddenly mysteriously died?
that's a good point. Like, I actually don't know too much, but I've only heard about that. I actually don't actually know what's going on because on the surface, so from what I have seen, it's just a very strange coincidence, and that can happen, right? Like,
But
but deep down, I have
there's
no
like
idea.
20 odd of them. It's like a few. You'd be like, okay, you could. It's stretching believability, but then I've heard it's like upwards of 20 people, and it's like that can't be right.
I mean, it's hard to say, right? If you look at Russia, for example, how many people get randomly throw themselves out of a hotel room? It's hard to say. Like, obviously, with these type of scenarios, like unless I know the truth, I can't really say anything. Like with this German situation, like for me, I'm just keeping my distance on Germany because, like, I know what they've done 100 years ago. I know the current cycle they're walking. They're basically doing a copy paste of what happened before the Nazis took power, and they were like, you know what, we can do it again. Like it's just complete ignorance. With if you look at some interviews and documentaries of what's going on in Germany, like when Vance, for example, came to Germany to speak about the problems, a lot of Germans booed him and like disagree with him. Well, like Vance was just speaking like straight facts. Like everything he said was just random, not like random. It was just logic. There was nothing wrong with what he said, but they just couldn't handle it because, well, like I say again, right? It's that schijnheiligheid, the holier than thou attitude, where they're like they live in such a bubble, they have absolutely no idea what's going on. Like last week, for example, we spoke about the sexual assaults during the new year, right? Like it's these type of things where nothing really changes because people are so obsessed with their phones, stuff like that. Like we already spoke about that, but they just forget what happened because it's a weekly thing. So unless it was in that current week, in current week, current thing, they don't care anymore. It's very similar with sports, right? They don't really care about the last result. They only care about current result. And if current result is not good, they're going to be upset. It's a very strange mentality that we have gotten ever since the invention of the internet. It's something humanity has to evolve with. And right now we're in its infancy, and at some point, I only think that there's something good that's going to come out of it, as long as we make sure that philosophy and ethics keep up and make sure that there's some level of construct, but not too much construct. Because if you could put too much construct on it, what's happening in the European Union, you fall leagues behind. Like the only
Yeah.
card my country has to play on the global political stage when it comes to the technology stage is ASML. That's the only card we have. Thankfully, it's the most powerful one, but it's kind of like we've really shot ourselves in the foot when it comes to like the development of everything. This is why open source is being heavily debated on how important the usage of open source is and how much we should take advantage of open source. It's very similar to the medical world where for example, the vaccines, like the personal patents. So it's like just do whatever you want with it because it's for the greater good of humanity, right?
Yeah.
Like Trin is in cybersecurity, so I don't know really how you feel about this, but I'm assuming most developers just want to create things that are for the greater good of humanity.
Yes and no. There's a lot of examples of people who want to create things to help people, and then there's some people who just want to create things to indulge their ideologies. There's a lot of problems in the open source world in Linux, for example, where there's constant wars between extreme leftists basically taking over distros and trying to incorporate various functions that would mess with things that they feel are unclean, as it were. There's a couple of channels online that I watch that detail things like that. But overall, people there is a general tendency for people to actually genuinely want to help. It's just the problem is your there's a difference between the desire to help and what actually happens. And like the road to hell is as always is as always paved with good intention.
You've
That's
been
kind
in.
of like where you need some level of like rules, right? Like not too many rules to fully create a dam, but more enough rules to make sure that the road doesn't actually go to hell.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like AI is going to be a giant mess. Trying to figure out ways to actually restrict and legislate and regulate AI is going to be a giant pit, and I don't think it's going to properly happen for probably another good 4 to 8 years, and who knows where AI is going to be by then. I mean, although I continue to quibble that it's not actually AI because there's nothing intelligent about what it's doing, but that's beside the
Yeah.
point.
It's just an LLM, as they say, isn't it? It's just a large language model that really just determines
I
your
mean,
inputs.
if you think about it, right, like the godfather of AI, like one of the main reasons he created AI, well, he didn't really create it, but like, he was the one that took the first steps to actually put it together. It was mostly because his son had autism. And if you look at the good side, because that's something you always have to do, you always have to look at the good side to make sure that those things don't get blocked, is that people with autism, if they actually use AI, they can more easily understand things because they can actually ask a permanent teacher to explain things to them that they don't really understand. And if you more often not look at teachers and you have a child with autism, they're trying to, instead of explaining things to them that make sense, because I've interacted with quite a few people that in their childhood, instead of being explained things, like for example with maths, she kind of just gave up and started nodding. Was like, okay. And then like after like a solid 15 years, I met her and then I was asking her these things. She's like, I have no idea. I just know that this is this. Which is like, okay, so somewhere down the line in education, we kind of already failed this person. But then if you give this person an AI and you can have that person ask those questions herself, she could get from the large language model an explanation that in her eyes would actually make sense. And if it doesn't, she can keep asking because AI doesn't sleep, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, that there is a very, in my opinion, a very good side to it. There's definitely a bad side. Like I think if you look at pop culture, pretty much every single thing that has been evolving has already been warned about. Like I spoke about Cyberpunk a little bit ago, right? But if you look at Warhammer as well, makes a lot of fun of like all kinds of ideologies. If you look at what is that show again? That cartoon, the Jetsons Family or something. How they envisioned life would be like in the 2020s. Well, I'm sorry we
That
didn't
was a
make
great
it.
My
program.
jetpack.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like it's those kind of things, right? Like people envision certain things, and I firmly believe like in creativity of people, because as long as we enable that creativity for the good side, it can do a lot of good. But then, like with the pushing of ideologies and the pushing of like everything that's going on, it just makes things too complicated. Like bureaucracy is like a Germanic's favorite thing, right? If you think about the Anglo-Saxons, the Saxons, the Dutch, like all of us, we love our rules, and that's
Aye.
also our downfall because we create too many rules. Like more often than not, Germany, England, they're very rule obsessed, right? They create rules for everything, and in exchange, we just get problems. America obviously comes predominantly from like Germany, Anglo-Saxons. Like if you think about it, mostly Germanic people in America, right? Well, not anymore, but when we first started the colonies. And that also led to like the founding fathers. And this is kind of like something that always interests me because the founding fathers of America, I don't know how much you know about this, Trin, but within their group, so quote unquote their bubble, Polybius was someone that was very influential in their decision making on how to create the constitution. Because obviously you had like a lot of people disagreeing with each other, right? Like with Hamilton, you had JJ, you had Benjamin Franklin. Like there was a lot of disagreements within them, but there was one book, not really one book, but like it was one work that really stood out to them where they started trading with each other. Like, hey, you should read this. Hey, you should read this, which was Polybius' cycle of collapse on why things collapse. Like right now, as it stands, I've said it multiple times already, but America is heading towards mob rule, which is the next stage that comes after democracy, as Polybius described it. But your founding fathers really tried to create a system that prevents that. And would you say, Trin, that right now there is enough safeguards in place that your founding fathers have created in order to at least try to stop that?
Yeah, I would say that there's still plenty of safeguards in place in order to prevent a full shift to mob rule. There's a lot. The rules of the system haven't changed appreciably, despite constant attempts to erode them for various reasons from both the right and the left. But I feel that that institution at least is endured and is still mostly intact, and if anything, is probably going to be on an upsurge of recently.
Mm.
So I feel that we're more. I feel that we have bounced off of the floor and are coming up this time instead of just sitting on the floor.
Mm. I wanted to ask a question of you, Trent. Obviously, you're in cybersecurity, as you said. Do you think that the wars of the future will be waged online rather than in the battlefield, like they have done in history?
Oh, absolutely. There's an entire term for it. I think it's a fifth generation
Yep.
warfare.
Right.
But yeah, propaganda online, trying to fake things out online, trying to manipulate public opinion online, trying to use the global networks in order to infiltrate things happens all
Yeah.
the time. It's a constant problem. There's a very robust cybersecurity apparatus in our
Yeah.
military, so everybody's doing their
You
part, as it
see,
were.
I mean, you see a lot of things about deep fakes out there at the moment, and I guess that's what the worrying thing for me is how much these deep fakes can persuade public opinion on things and how it can shift somebody's attitude. Because if the person doesn't go out and do their due diligence and actually fact check this information, then it can lead to false opinions, and people getting violent for the wrong reasons. Which maybe I'm wrong about this, but it might have happened in the Charlie Kirk situation. You're also seeing like videos online of people saying that this person who is accused didn't actually do it, which is fake information, I suppose, because he was caught, as far as I'm aware, he was caught dead to rights for it, and he admitted to people that he done it. But there's still people out there who want to go online and say, oh no, he didn't do it, he was persuaded to do it, and X, Y, and Z, and there's always going to be some kind of excuse. And now it's too easy to use AI to put a deep fake to that, to fake a video, that this person might not be the person that they were looking for initially, so I guess that opens up a whole
Well,
can of worms as well.
well, absolutely, but people will lie all the time regardless. It's just that AI gives them additional tools to do so. People have already had massive problems with checking their
Mm,
sources. This isn't
yeah,
a
of
new
course.
issue. It's just making the lies more convincing. And when it comes down to it, the trial of the assassin will
Mm,
prove things up, because you're not going to be able to submit deep
yeah.
fake evidence to try to prove that to say
Yeah,
you
which was
didn't
the
do
point
it.
I kind of wanted to get to earlier on. Is that trial? I think, is it going to be a witch hunt, or is it going to be a fair trial? Because if there is outside influence, and what Mike said is that it probably won't be televised because it's a federal case. But could there still be outside influence put into that to give him a fair trial? I mean, I know already people are calling for the death penalty for the person, but in my opinion, I guess the death penalty in itself is a bit of a controversial subject. We don't have it here in the UK. A lot of people say we should have it. But then, there are different views and different things. For me, I'm kind of against the death penalty. But in certain circumstances, I suppose it is a tool to make sure justice is prevailing.
I feel that the trial will be able to be made as just as is humanly possible. Like, for example, Kyle Rittenhouse had the same problem.
Can you explain?
Um, because of the events of do you know the events of the
No,
Kyle Rittenhouse case?
no, sorry, I don't.
Okay. During the BLM riots, there was an event in Kenosha where there were some riots. They had for whatever reason, and some people were there trying to keep the damage down, trying to contain the damage, and try to keep the rioters from messing everything up. There was a 17-year-old, Kyle Rittenhouse, who went to the location, and he tried providing medical support, tried cleaning up areas, and he went and put out some fires that were set in a trash
Okay,
bin. And this aroused the anger of some members of the mob who attacked him. He attempted to disengage. They pursued, and he ended up. Long story short, he ended up shooting 3 people who
Killing
attacked
two of
right.
him.
them.
So that's self-defense.
Very clear self-defense,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was everything was caught on video. It was and basically, in my opinion, was the most open and shut case of self-defense in existence. But it became a giant rallying point because it was during the BLM riots, and like everybody was afraid of what the ramifications would be if
Sorry,
he was found
just
innocent.
to clarify, what's BML?
No, BLM,
Oh,
BLM,
Black
BL,
Lives
Black
Matter.
Lives
the
Matter.
Black
Okay,
Lives
sorry, I thought
Matter.
you said BML. Sorry,
Yeah.
BLM. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry. Go ahead.
So basically, obviously, because of the national scale of attention being put towards the case, it was very hard to find jurors who were not would not be considered biased in some manner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to probably be the same thing for the person responsible for the killing of
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk. But they will endeavor to try to make it as fair as
Yeah.
possible, and because he has his due process just like everybody else. He has a right to a fair trial and by a jury of his
Yeah.
peers. So
Absolutely.
I actually prefer that it not be televised.
Yeah.
I don't want everybody hanging on every daily report of what goes on in that case. It's not something we need to be focusing on right now. Right now, what we need to be focusing on is what we do moving forward and what we do to make sure something like this never
Yeah.
happens
And that
again.
be the whole
I
point,
don't
right?
see how the two of those are mutually exclusive though, because I'd say it's like you want it to be, I'd say, live stream so you can at least watch the highlights, and so you don't get people who try and lie, because that could happen very easily if it's all behind closed doors.
Mm.
People can lie all they want, but the results are going to be right there in
Yeah.
black and white.
Sometimes, but even when people are presented with black and white evidence, they still want to see some kind of, you know, other side of the story. It's not always cut and dry, even when it's there in full cut and dry format. But as you said there, it is about moving forward and making sure that it doesn't get repeated. Which I guess, for me, with guns in the United States, that's kind of a bit of a sore point as well. And I guess people can need to use guns to defend themselves, as we've spoke about in the past. People need to defend themselves. But then, does it mean that everybody has to have a gun to defend themselves? It's one of those ones.
I think everybody should have a gun to defend themselves.
Well, in what way can they not just defend themselves with hand and fist?
Against a person with a gun?
Yeah, but if there wasn't any guns there, then the other
That's
person
never
wouldn't
going to
have a gun.
happen.
Yeah,
Well, no, because criminals are always going to
Well,
find a way to
first
have
of
a
all,
gun.
First of all, there's more guns in the United States than there
Yeah.
are people.
Like
Yeah.
bicycles in the Netherlands.
What was that? Sorry.
I said that's like bicycles in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're bicycles in the Netherlands than there are people. But it's nice biking territory,
Yeah.
to be fair. That said, you are not going to get people to give up their guns, especially after the Charlie
How
Kirk
do
shooting.
people in America view the UK in terms of like our knife crime and X, Y, and Z?
I mean, the knife crime is an expression of the same problem that it always is in like with liberal inner city type things. The problem isn't what's being used to commit the crime. The problem is the criminals aren't being arrested and
Yeah.
punished.
But then, could you not look deeper than that and say that it goes, why do the people commit crime in the first place?
Exactly. Why are people committing the
And
crime?
is it
It's
because
also like an interesting part, right? Like how much gun crime has there been, let's say, in the 1900s to 1950? Because guns have always been legal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the same kind of idea. Like the crime rates went up as standards of living went down, and obviously it had also a lot of influence. Like this illegals, no matter how you look at it, illegal is illegal. That makes you a criminal by default, right? And that
Yeah.
whole protection as well.
Yes.
Like what was it? Sanctuary cities is what I heard about in New York.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
what
yeah,
even
yeah.
is that? A sanctuary city?
Yeah.
It's
Supposedly, it is a city that is supposed to be a sanctuary for illegal immigrants.
That makes no sense, right?
it's not supposed to.
It's completely counterproductive. They are making a flaunting statement. They're virtue signaling, as it were, that in support of immigrants, because they love to conflate illegal immigrants with immigrants.
Yeah, but this is something
because they don't see it. They
you
don't
see
see a
the same in
difference.
my country. Like the immigration process in my country is actually very rough. And to get a passport is even more difficult. Like in Europe, the Dutch passport is one of the most difficult ones to obtain. So you would assume the Dutch have some level of logic when it comes to like, okay, like what we get here are actual immigrants, people working hard to get the immigration, blah blah blah, right? And instead, what we get is just let anyone in. Fuck it. That's kind of like what the European has done to us. Is like, yeah, whatever, man, just to throw them all in. Like, for reference, my country is like half the size of Florida, if even. That's how small my country is. So we have around
Right.
70 million people living in this country. 2.6 million of those are not Dutch. Around 300,000 of those are not here legally. You see the problem? That's a small ass country, but we're so bloated it makes absolutely no sense. Like I like watching like some Dutch police YouTubers like Jan Willem, and over the years I've seen his job turn from like basic police stuff to him constantly having to deal with people that don't speak a word English or Dutch. So my tax money is going to, first of all, they're getting fines, and this is what I like about like this police officer. He just puts the actual law that he has to follow on the screen. He's like, "There's nothing I can do. Like, you can dislike me for all you want. I have to write this fine. I cannot put him in prison. I cannot throw him out of the country because this is the law." This is kind of like what I like about these type of things. And at the same time, I'm looking, okay, so he has to call a translator. That's not cheap. Like when a police officer calls a translator, that's an expensive business because his translator is obviously going to charge like premium price, right? Then he has to give him a fine he knows won't be paid because this guy has no money. And then he has to tell him to go away, fully knowing that if he came back here in 30 minutes, that guy would probably be back again. And that just keeps repeating. And now if you scale that up to the European Union or you scale it up to the United States, like I said, half the size of Florida, you can imagine the amount of problems that you're creating for not just your like police force, but for everyone involved. Like we spoke a little about sanctuary cities, right? Amsterdam is a city like in the Netherlands. You have something called the CBS, which is the Central Bureau of Statistics. Like I said, we Dutch like our numbers, we like our facts, right? And the Central Bureau of Statistics does keep track of like differences between like second generation, third generation, refugees, etc., etc. Also, when it comes to crime, and there is a reason Moroccans are getting a lot of hate here, and it's pretty easy to find why. It's because they are like 11 times more likely to be involved with crimes involving sexual harassment, rape, murder, etc. Right? Like there's even a mafia operating here, the Moroccan mafia. Now, if you actually go to Morocco, amazing people. And if you listen to them, they're actually starting to get a grudge against the Moroccans and how they are behaving in Europe. But that is the problem. The problem is the fact that these people are considered Moroccan in the first place. They're not born in Morocco. They have maybe been there once or twice or for vacation.
Yeah.
But that's about it, right? Like now imagine the same thing in America, right? What do you say, Dave?
Sorry, I was just going to say, so basically they're tarnishing the name of a whole, group of people because of the, choices of a few or the bad choices of a few.
Well, it's more than a few, right? Like it's actually quite a significant percentage. Like we're talking like 11% or something. That's overrepresentation, right? From a small quote unquote minority. But if you take the same lens to America and you think about, for example, the Mexicans that come over, like one of the things that stood out for me during the election last year was that you had legal Mexicans that actually went through the due diligence of getting an American passport or like a green card and all of those type of things. They're actually quite upset with the actual Mexicans that are coming there illegally. And how do you view that, Trinity? Like based on like my experience with like Moroccans and how actual Moroccans are and how they're behaving over here.
That maps precisely that the people who take the trouble to come here legally hate illegals. They hate how illegal immigrants are ruining the reputation of their home countries. They hate how they're ruining the reputation of their ethnicities. How it makes things harder for everybody and slows things down for other people who want to immigrate legally.
Yeah.
It's completely
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I mean,
Um,
but what about people who have came in maybe illegally and then got legal, basis later on down the line? What plays in the back of my mind is people flee countries for different reasons. Maybe because they're under dictator rule or they're fleeing for some purpose. You know, um,
and you
and
seek refugees, like
yeah,
you seek
yeah.
refugee.
Those people need to come into countries illegally, by all definition, right? Because they've not
No,
seeked.
like there's refugee centers, Dave. Like right now, you're trying to make excuses for illegals. Illegals are criminals.
Right.
Like
I mean, like,
Put it this way: one way to think of it is, how do actual refugees get into the country? They usually get flown in by the government directly,
yep.
because there's an official route for them to go. When the illegals come in, they just hop the border in whatever way they can.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But then maybe they've had.
Yeah,
I'm
now
not
there's
trying to make excuses, but maybe they've had no choice, and not waited.
All
They
right, I'm
couldn't wait for the
gonna
government.
cut you there because that just means you have no idea what's going on in the Mediterranean. Like now we're not even talking about America, we're talking about Europe. In the Mediterranean, I'm just gonna tell you how it is, right?
Okay.
They set up a camp in Tunisia, Algeria, or Morocco. They all know that they're there. So the Moroccan government knows they're there, the Algerian government knows that they're there, the Tunisian government knows that they're there, and we are paying the Moroccan government to keep them in place. There's parts of Spain, like Spain is territory on the African continent, right? There's a small piece, like right on the northern edge of Africa, that is heavily guarded and heavily bordered. So within Morocco, for example, there are like these mountains or like far away from civilization where these people come and they have passports at this time. So that means they have their documents at this time. But they all know what they're going to do. The Moroccan government knows what they're going to do, but they don't do any action because they're not actually committing any crime yet. But the moment push comes to shove, they get on a boat, they throw all of their papers away, and then they just go RNG. They go for luck. So if you make it or not, like it's all up to RNG, right? So they take the boat and hope that they actually make it across.
Right.
And what we've done for quite some time is our navy, so that means our frigates and everything, they start picking them up because they're like they're gonna die if we don't do something. So most of them are men. We've also known that their behavior is quite bad. Like when they come over here, they have absolutely no intention of integrating. They come here with the idea of this utopian idealism that's going on in Europe. It's probably very similar to America with the American dream. And then when the vision doesn't match their thoughts, they get upset. And more often than not, they're also very attractive for criminal gangs because these people had never had any intention to actually remotely function within the society they were going into anyway, because literally the steps that they took in order to get here already made no sense whatsoever. It was pure, maybe some desperate actions in there. But when you're camping for weeks, months, years on top of a mountain in Morocco,
Mm.
creating a massive garbage dump as well, because they are littering like crazy too, just so that you at some point decide to take a boat and risk your luck. I'm sorry, but you're just a criminal. Like, I'm not gonna pity you. Like, I know
Yeah.
exactly what these people are doing. Like, we are paying the Moroccan government to keep these people in check, and that's what they're doing. Like, the Moroccan government is using the army to make sure that these people don't get caught. But at some point, some slip through, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be the same with the America. Like America, if they build a wall, there's always going to be people slipping through, but you should still treat them as criminals. It's better to have, let's say, out of 10 people, you catch 9 people that are bad and you just kick them out, than saving that single individual that actually needed help. Like, why
Yeah.
would you risk the safety of your own nation based on the fact that potentially, so it's not even a guarantee, but potentially 1 out of 10 actually needs us? I'd say just take the refugee route and just go to the centers and just ask for refugee, and we will get you into Europe. That's how it already works. It's worked for that for a long time. America is the exact same thing. They have refugee centers. But
Mm.
the thing that you're saying right now is extremely dangerous, Dave. Because right now you're trying to justify the actions of these people when in reality, the refugees, I've known this as well with the Mexican border, the cartel just smuggles them in, right? Like this is a financial business, right, Trent?
Oh, there's so much money in smuggling people in. It's not even just the cartels, but there's like dozens of NGOs that have been set up specifically to bring illegals to the United States, and they're funded by all kinds of people. They used to be funded by USAID before they got
Yeah.
shut down.
Yeah.
They used to be, and there's also the usual suspects. Soros and his Open Society Foundation is responsible for a great deal of illegal
Mhm.
immigration.
Mhm. And I mean, illegal immigration
But
is illegal immigration. Absolutely is illegal. And I just want to kind of touch on the reasons maybe why people illegally immigrate. And I'm not trying to defend it in any way. Don't say that I am. But I just wanted to get to the root maybe of why people illegally immigrate and can't, go the legal route, so to speak.
Well,
And it's nice and
well,
insightful to see the difference between refugees and illegal immigrants, I suppose, as well, for anybody who is ignorant of those processes. Then yeah, it's
it becomes pretty obvious to see the difference between an illegal immigrant and a genuine asylum seeker, because when you're seeking asylum, the rule is actually you're supposed to go to the nearest safe country. That doesn't require you to go across 8 different countries to get to the US. There's a lot closer countries that are very
mm,
safe comparatively to whatever situation's going on that's afflicting you. Second of all, a situation that requires asylum is usually quite obvious. There's war. There's war. There's a ecological disaster of some sort. Things like that. Um, and then and then people will wait and they will use the correct process to do that instead of just, as people say, jump in a boat or get smuggled in with coyotes
mm,
or whatever. Um, so now there have been attempts in previous administrations to try to basically broaden the asylum classification, as it were, to effectively mean anything, and then people will get their asylum, will come in on asylum, and then they just never report in for their actual review because it takes time. Because obviously the immigration courts are so backed up that it takes time to actually hear their case. So they just disappear into the woodwork instead of attending their asylum hearing.
yeah, okay,
And then after that, they have no valid IDs here. So what do? How can they get work? How are they supposed to live? This is where you get run into criminal things like
Identity theft.
being paid under the table, identity theft, credit card theft,
yeah,
things like that. And then and even if they don't, and so you're talking about a crime that creates more
yeah.
crime that
So it's a
creates more
vicious circle
crime.
in a sense.
Like, and then they just stack up debt. They get high on life, on America, on how America lives, because they're so used to privation in their homeland, and they lose perspective on what they're supposed to be able to, what is correct and what is not correct. And then on top of that, they rack up all this debt, and there's no way to actually call them in on it because they're not actually here legally. They can just leave if they really want to, and there's nothing the credit card companies or anything can do about it. And so then the debt that they rack up has to be paid by
Yeah,
everybody else.
yeah. So it's cause and effect.
And then on top of that, these people tend to accumulate in groups that never bother assimilating into the United
Mm,
States. They don't they want to create, they want to stay, whatever, they want to stay whatever culture that
yeah.
they
What you
were.
probably see in the
And the lack of
Netherlands and also the UK, you know, it's the same story, I suppose, across the board, not just the USA, right?
Wasn't it Obama that
yeah,
said you will speak English when you come here, you will like accept our amendments when you come here, all of those types of things? It's way back in 2008, I believe.
He said it, but he never went through
Yeah.
with it.
That's true.
Or
But
at the very least, the Democrats
Well-
subverted it because he was called the deporter in chief, wasn't he?
Oh, he did a lot of deporting, but it didn't end up. Apparently, it did. Then Biden went. His VP ended up undoing it and more.
yeah,
But do you
Biden had
think-
a lot of fun.
Do you think the Obama administration did any good for America, or did it cause more damage than what it did good?
Some of the things he did actually harmed me personally. Obamacare actually caused me a lot of economic duress.
Okay.
But I'm sure he did some good things, but it's just so easy for me to just dwell on the things that I disagreed with, like one might expect. He was a well-spoken man. He was very presidential, very solemn, and very charismatic. So charismatic.
I think to be a president, you need to have that degree of charismatic, traits, I suppose.
Yeah, but I feel that I would need to go back and actually do a deep dive on that in order to decide whether he was better or worse for the country on balance.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, is there anything that we can bring to the table just now and looks to wrap this up?
I think we've covered quite a good amount of things. Quite
Yeah,
a
we've been
wide
all over the
variety.
place tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any closing statements?
Yeah, I have nothing outstanding
Any
here.
closing statements from anybody?
No, I'm good.
Don't get black pilled. Hold out hope. The most important thing is to survive. It's always darkest before the
It's
dawn.
always darkest. I love that. It's always darkest before the dawn. That's a great saying.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by my book, We Stand on the Shoulders of Titans, Amnesia.